Alabama officially has a quarterback problem. And this is weird to see because for a while you had a lot of A.J. McCarron type of guys coming through the Crimson Tide, guys that really would just have to game manage, but not necessarily win the game. And then the Tua Tagovailoas and the Jalen Hurts, well, let me give that respect. The Jalen Hurtses of the world and the Tua Tagovailoas of the world and the Bryce Youngs of the world and the Mac Joneses of the world. All first-round quarterbacks. I think Jalen Hurts was taken in the second round, but that's just because Philadelphia, at the time, didn't really know what they were doing. Love that Jalen Hurts has the bag now, and he's led Philadelphia to a Super Bowl. But we haven't seen Alabama have a quarterback problem in a really long time, and they've started to become this school now. It's not just wide receivers. It's not just running backs. It's not just defensive players. They were putting very good players at the quarterback position into the league. And that's remarkable, understanding that Alabama hasn't really done that in a while. It was like watching a Roman gladiator battle. Stayed up to 2 to watch it. Prime is my favorite cowboy. Oh, yeah, Colorado State was crazy. The Bama and Georgia games look like high school games. Georgia's coming up right after this, jumping into Bama. But it's very clear. It is very, very clear that Alabama has a quarterback problem right now. And just, a few takeaways from this win over South Florida, who, by the way, had one win last year. A win is a win. It's an absolutely ugly one. They win 17-3. Inconsistent play from the Crimson Tide offense. They go from Jalen Milroe to Tyler Buckner. Obviously, Simpson comes in as well. Neither one of them necessarily make an impression. I believe Jalen Milroe should still be that guy because I think he was the most promising. He was the most dynamic. He had the biggest pop. He had the most arm. Don't kid yourself, Nick Saban. Jalen Milroe's your guy. But I understand why you did pull him out. Not necessarily the greatest start for the first couple of games. Of course, we talk about redshirt freshman Ty Simpson. That's funny. I went to school with a guy named Ty Simpson. He would eventually enter the game late in the second quarter, and he would remain Alabama's quarterback throughout the contest. But neither one of these guys were very impressive as the game went on. We're just 3 games into the Tommy Rees era of the Alabama offense, and it's off to a pretty rough start if we're being honest. Obviously, they're struggling at the quarterback position. No adjustments have really been made. And the crazy thing is all of the Tide quarterbacks, not all of the Tide quarterbacks, Jalen Milroe is very athletic, right? I don't believe he has been necessarily set up for success with the play calling or the schemes or the way things have rolled out because we see he can connect on big plays. Yes, he's obviously missing on some simple things there, but Jalen Milroe is the guy. The Alabama offense looked the best under him. Alabama actually they didn't look scary, but they were resemblant of a Nick Saban-led team when Jalen Milroe was in at quarterback. Penalties are costing the Tide. Penalties are absolutely costing them. You look in the last 2 weeks, Alabama's had 4 touchdowns taken off the board because of penalties. Lack of discipline, very big problem. They have to fix that quickly. And I think that's just a thing that Nick Saban has to reel in. We know Nick Saban's teams are very disciplined. They do not do these types of things. They do not have touchdowns taken off the board in a piss-poor game against South Florida because of the way that things are shaking out. And, you got to give Kevin Steele his credit for that Alabama defense doing their part in Saturday's matchup. They hold South Florida 264 total yards, 3 total points. They forced 2 turnovers, 5 sacks. They were challenged pretty decently following last week's showing, and they definitely answered the bell here. Again, winning 17-3. You got to look at Roydell Williams as well. He should definitely be RB1. 17 carries, 129 yards, and a touchdown. He's really proven himself that he can step in and be that RB1. But the quarterback competition, if you want to talk about anybody that should technically challenge Jalen Milroe, maybe it's between Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe. I mean, if we're being honest. Because Ty Simpson didn't look like a game changer, but he did manage the offense well. He distributed the ball, somewhat effectively in this. Buckner really played his way out of the competition. When you take a look at just the film realistically, it's got to come down again to Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson. Not a whole lot to take away from an Alabama-South Florida game where Alabama only puts up 17 points and they shuffle quarterbacks and they have penalties. Like, this is not complimentary Crimson Tide, Roll Tide rolled Nick Saban football. This is not the Alabama Crimson Tide now sitting outside of the AP top 10 for the first time in what feels like a century. You have Alabama playing football like this. You've got Florida beating Tennessee. We're about to get into Georgia, South Carolina. We're going to get into, obviously, FSU and Boston College later on in the show as well. But college football week 3 was interesting. Colorado State, Alabama, South Florida. Florida beating Tennessee, UGA, South Carolina. what do we got to look at here? Alabama's got a quarterback problem. They have a quarterback problem, and this isn't this feels probably like uncharted territory to them. I think they'll be able to iron it out. I think they'll be okay realistically in the coming weeks. And, as the seasons go on with Nick Saban, they're like, Alabama's had a top recruiting class of all time, especially over the last 5 years, for a very specific reason. They are SEC champs and multiple time national champs under Nick Saban for a reason. So I'm not panicking like we're about to potentially in the next couple segments as we talk about NFL panic teams, but Alabama definitely has to clean it up as things are not looking very promising. You wish Notre Dame hired Dion. Yeah, Notre Dame probably wishes they hired Dion as well.